I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending September the 14th, brought to you in part by VitaFerm. When forage quality is low, power your herd with VitaFerm Concept Aid protein products. They deliver 20% natural protein plus power of Concept Aid mineral, ideal for cattle on mature or low quality forage, crop residues, or low energy hay. Coming to you here from St. Francisville, Louisiana, here at the Brangus Bull Sale, Mid-South Cattle Company, but had a good sale, and it was plenty warm down here, about 99 degrees with 99% humidity. And been a long time since I've been in that, but I literally melted. But talking about this week's markets, opportunity is knocking. This market is just about to blast off here, and would have done it at the end of this last week, but your Packers just would not give in. But you know, I was talking with one of my favorite contacts, and he was a guy that cut his teeth in the old terminal markets when they sold them on the bricks, and the way he was talking is we were visiting about this. If these sellers, the handful that still sell negotiated cash, which, you know, you could haul them away in a Greyhound bus, so it's not as hard as it would have been back when everybody sold negotiated cash. But now you got a handful of guys that sell in the cash market. Everybody else just follows the lead with formula trades and highs for the previous week and this or that or whatever. But these guys that are actually making the market, if they would get together and just establish some rules. And my friend was telling me back in the terminal market days, he said everybody had a license, and they gave you a set of rules, and if you didn't follow those rules, you were out. But you know, you could, the buyers could come in and look at the cattle that the commission men had sorted up there, but nobody could bid on any cattle until 8 o'clock. You could leave them a sealed bid that they could open up after that, or what have you. But you know, there was rules there where you didn't have guys sneaking around and trying to buy cattle out from under each other. It gave all the buyers an option to bid on the cattle and buy the cattle when you got into trading hours, and then the trading hours lasted so long, and you got so far into the afternoon, and back in those days, much afternoon. Noontime, not much happened, but after a certain time, then it stopped again, and you had to wait till the next day. And if these negotiated guys would get together, and it's not collusion whenever you're selling, guys, when you're offering up the product there, but you know, just establish some rules to live by on this trade deal. You know, we're not going to sell anything after 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. We're gonna show the cattle or let people know what we got on the show list on Monday and Tuesday. We can trade from 8 o'clock on Wednesday till 5 o'clock on Friday. And you know, when you got an up market like this, we're not gonna fall for a lower bid. You know, guys just need to get together, as easy as it is on phones and on social media and tweeting and different things like that. It shouldn't be that hard to do, but they just fail to be able to take advantage of a market when it is bound to be higher. And this past week was one example of that. But they can't mess this up. This is, you know, we've established our bottom here a couple, 3 weeks ago. We're on the way up. We could make some big strides here if they don't mess this up. But we'll talk about the fat trade a little bit more here down the line. But look at the way the board acted through the week. October live cattle, Monday was up 20 cents, Tuesday down 85, Wednesday up 217, Thursday down 67, and Friday up the $3 limit. And you haven't seen the up the limit in your live cattle contracts for a long time, but they ended up with October settling the week at 113.80, up 385 for the week. December's at 118.05, up 363. If you remember, in the middle of the week last week, they sold some cattle, November cattle in Iowa, to deliver in November, won over the December board. And I assume it's one of those deals where they can pick the day whenever they want to, and that would be pretty interesting if that's the way it all played out. But October feeder cattle, Monday down 27, Tuesday down 22. Then it turned around. Wednesday up 2.57. Thursday up 37 cents. Friday up $3.47 with your daily limits on your feeder cattle $4.50, so they had room to grow yet. But October feeder cattle contracts ended the week at 158.87, up nearly $6 for the week, $5.92. Your September, which doesn't get a lot of action, ended at 157.42, up 4.45. And a lot of that feeder cattle bullishness come from that bearish crop report that come out there last week, and we saw that USDA is estimating there's going to be a record yield, average yield for this crop. They backed off the acreages just a little bit and moved them over to beans, and in turn your beans are planning on having an all-time record crop, but all-time record yields expected for corn, and we're hearing some monsters come in already. But your fat cattle trade through Thursday had hardly sold anything, 8,600 head. Then the board come out on Friday and was up big, and normally your packers can just rely on a down board on a Friday and then come in there and buy the cattle kind of where they wanted to be. But when the board just kept moving up, then your sellers did, I tell you what, you got to give them credit. They kept shrugging off those bids, and they just kept raising their asking prices. But we ended up seeing a little bit of trade from 108 to 110. You know, if we'd have thought we'd have got 110 earlier last week, they'd have thought that was great. But late in the afternoon on Friday, your packers were bidding 111. Now that is $3 better than the previous week, and they were bidding 111, and everybody just kept shaking it off, and so didn't get that big trade. And we come in here on Monday, I guarantee you there'll be a lot more trade happen than what you think. Everybody was just hush about it and didn't let on, but they probably bought some cattle from 109 to 110, and probably several dress cattle up in the northern plains at 175, which those bids were out there most of the afternoon on Friday. But we'll see what comes out on Monday from last week's trade, but everybody's been real hush about it, but didn't get the big movement, and we needed a big movement. But I tell you what, they can't mess this opportunity up. It's time to make strides in this cash fat cattle market, and you can't let this go away and wait till the next dip in the board happens or whatever that's going to kill it. But box beef cutout values, the average trade for last week had choice cuts at 205.09, down $4.04 on the average. Your selects 197.64 on the average trade for last week, and that was $1.87 lower than the previous week's average. Choice select spread is narrowed down to $7.45, but on your daily late in the week it was a lot more narrow than that. But did have good movement last week at 639 loads, and that's pretty good, and we need to keep that moving. Your slaughter was 652,000. That's one of your bigger ones for the year. And it was hard to compare to the previous holiday week with Labor Day in there, but compared to the same week a year ago, it was 646,000. That was up 6,000. So real healthy slaughter, and that's good. You know, I want to talk a little bit about your Canadian movement. I know we don't talk about that very much, but they do raise cattle and feed cattle up there, and they're a good customer of ours. And had a good one of my contact friends up there sent me some information from the sales up there late in the week last week out of Virden, Manitoba. Said they had a load of 757 pound steers off grass, bring 219.75, and you think, whoo, but that's Canadian money. So those 757 pound steers bring back 169.20. And that's sure nothing to sneeze at either. So they're not dumping cattle on us, guys, at lower prices. Their market's as good or better than ours, and they've got some good demand from their local packing houses up there too whenever those cattle get fat. But on a direct basis, he told me about a big string. He bought 450 head of backgrounded steers. Now, they have some flesh on them. They're not green. We're not running out on grass, but 450 head of steers weighed 1,000 pounds at delivery, bring $1.80 Canadian, which comes back to 138, And I don't think you could get that down here, guys, for cattle that had been shut up and getting a pretty good ration and backgrounded and carrying quite a bit of flesh. But Canada is moving cattle right now, and they've been kind of dry off up there again, and they had some moisture early in their grazing season, but it's turned off dry. And he told me there's going to be a lot of calves moving, and they're about out of yearlings, but a lot of calves moving here in the next 2 weeks, a lot of them. And talking about that, Ryan Kneinenbelt, your international livestock auctioneer champion from Alberta over there, he brought to my attention that Friday they had their biggest video of the year. The Western Canada Fall Classic video sale had 39,000 head on there. That's nothing to sneeze at. But you know, Ryan also learned that Ryan lost his little brother in a dirt bike accident recently, and just sure hated to hear that. And I tell you what, that Ryan Kneinenbelt is coming to California, you LMA World Champion Auctioneer guys. He's coming there for the big LMA contest in June, and look out. I tell you what, he's a young man, but got the know-how and the presence of a man twice his age. But I can't wait to see how he does in the big contest up there. But let's talk about your cash feeder cattle market here in the States for last week. Real-time index on Beef Market Central, end of the week at 152.85. That was up 14 cents. And real tight in there with your latest CME cash feeder cattle index, which was 152.71. So real tight in there. And your cash feeders in your auction sales last week were $2 to $5 higher, especially late in the week, and it could have been more than that on Friday afternoon after word started swirling about all these guys shrugging off these steady and just a pinch higher fat cattle bids and moving all the way up to 111 and still shrugging it off. So guys really started getting aggressive in those Friday afternoon sales. Your calves were $1 to $3 higher in your Midwest and your Plains. But in the Southeast, they were only steady. There was a lot of moisture swirling, a lot of talk about the hurricane coming in. People were uneasy about that, and even though it was kind of in your mid-Atlantic coast there, you know, guys out here in the Plains, they think that's all together, and they might have shrugged off from ordering some calves, which they're going to have to do here pretty quick because there's going to be a ton of wheat. But not sure what the damage is as far as livestock goes on that hurricane, but did see this picture here on social media, and I tell you what, this is, I don't know how widespread this was, but I'm sure this was not the only farm, and probably enough to make an impact, especially with the slaughter facilities of swine and also poultry in that area right there, which was hardest hit, and it's going to slow them down a little bit on production from what they normally see. But let's look at some sales late in the week. Burwell, Nebraska there had a heck of a sale on just about 1,600 head. Not a big sale. They'll have some big sales, and every time they hold a sale, it makes headlines. But at Burwell on Friday had 3 loads of 863-pound spayed heifers. You know, it keep those heifers from cycling whenever they spay them like that, and they feed a whole lot more like a steer. But 3 loads of them weighed 863 at 148.85. Lexington, Nebraska had a heck of a sale on Friday. 243 head of steers weighed 881 at 158.60. And not to be outdone by too far, Bluegrass Stockyards in Richmond, you know, had a heck of a sale right there in downtown Richmond there. 58 head of 911-pound steers bring 150.60 there. And Jim Dawson's got to be happy with that. And I tell you what, Lexington, Kentucky, the big home base Bluegrass is really going to have their work cut out for them to try to match what happened in Richmond late last week. But that's a look at your week's markets from St. Francisville, Louisiana. We'll talk to you next week.